Alright, I'm recording this on Sunday, April 25th, 2021. And earlier today, it occurred to me that this May 1st, it will be 10,000 hours into the pandemic. And if you do something for 10,000 hours, you're supposed to be a world expert on it. So if the entire world is now an expert on living in a pandemic, maybe we can really feel good and adjust to it, right? Ease into it. I gotta say that I've been complaining a whole lot less about all the changes. I wouldn't say bad changes, but just changes in our social atmosphere because of the pandemic, and I think a lot of people have too. And I think it's important to enjoy the differences in the pandemic before they become a memory to tell your children, right? I think so many times we talk about fond memories, but we really didn't enjoy them when they were happening. Even during the pandemic itself, I keep coming up with memories from 3 months ago, 6 months ago, that I probably didn't enjoy as much as I could have at the time, right? I want to mention a few memories that I made during the pandemic. When I think about improvements I made to my life during the pandemic, the first thing that comes to mind is my social anxiety problems. I used to have big challenges with doing anything involving a loud environment, crowded environment. Obviously, at the very beginning of the pandemic, we couldn't do any of that, and that became a little bit of an escape for me, and I got to relax, right? Take a vacation from doing that almost, right? And then we opened into phase 2. And one of my fondest memories of phase 2 was going to the CHAZ protest, Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. I had gone there at the very, not the very beginning. I know it was June 13th because I have an anniversary that day. On June 13th, 2010, I was happily single for the first time in my life. I had just broken up with a girl, and I discovered how much I can enjoy life without a partner. And so I decided to go to the CHAZ protest. Now, I learned later that week, that June 19th is called Juneteenth. And I was living in Ellensburg, Washington at the time. The protest was going on in Seattle. But I decided to drive home because I had made some friends here in the Seattle area. I used to frequent, well, I still do, a Thai restaurant in the Factoria area, Bellevue area, and I thought I'd go back to mingle with some people that I knew at the restaurant and at local businesses that were now open to a small extent. And so I came back for a day on Juneteenth, and I went to the CHAZ protest again to see how things were going. I think I might have recorded a video while I was there. And then I went to the Thai restaurant, and now they were allowing people to sit inside. It was 25% capacity. I think only 3 people were allowed to sit inside at a time. And I realized that, oh my God, I could actually do this. I can't wait until we try 50% capacity. I'm not panicking. I'm not having an anxiety attack. And Juneteenth of 2020 is probably one of my happiest days alive. Because I was handling the CHAZ protest. That was a very loud environment that I would never have dreamt of years and years ago, right? Okay, so those 2 times going to CHAZ. Now on November 17th, 2020, I spent my first night in Wallace, Idaho. I've always wanted to spend time in the Rocky Mountains. When I was working, I rarely had time to do so. I might take a day trip into there, but never spent a night there, believe it or not. I really liked it though. When I was working, if I had enough vacation time to go to the Computer Olympiad, and then there was usually 2 or 3 other conferences, I was lucky, right? And that really sticks out. What really sticks out about the Rockies is how much people accepted me for who I was, right? Here in the Seattle area, if you're single, you're looking for somebody, right? You can't be happily single here in the Seattle. I think that's changing, though. I think that's changing. It's kind of funny because obviously because of the events of the year, the movie Home Alone has become really popular again. And in Home Alone 1, Kevin makes a statement, and I wonder if it's if it's a culture jam. So Kevin jumps up and down saying how frustrated he was with his family, and he goes, "When I grow up and get married, I'm living alone." And he jumps up and down, "I'm living alone. When I grow up and get married, I'm living alone." That's kind of the life I'm leading right now, right? I wonder if that was a culture jam. Maybe this was back in 1989 when the movie came out, though. Maybe one of the directors had a lifestyle like mine and wanted to put that into the movie as kind of to kind of raise awareness, right? Now, the other happy memory I made during the pandemic was I realized it was okay to speak out about how I feel. You know, if Black lives can matter, maybe single lives can matter too, right? That was my inspiration. I remember the very first time I said single lives matter. I was watching a news segment about how 4th of July activities were being interrupted. And then they were talking about nationwide sports, you know, how basketball teams, football teams, how they had to stay away from their family. And I was so upset that every news segment revolved around families. And given that I had just come back from the Chaz protest, you know, this was around the time of the 4th of July, and, you know, at the Chaz protest, everybody was saying Black Lives Matter. Without even thinking about it, I just started to say single lives matter. So I coined that phrase around July of 2020. And that was probably one of the happiest moments in my life when I first said it on YouTube. I think the phrase has become much more popular since then. If you just look up hashtag single lives matter, I think there's a couple more other people besides myself now. Now, I got over my fear of loud noises in large part because I went to Chaz. The funny thing is, at the beginning of Chaz, I was talking to my parents about all the current events going on in Seattle. My mom was so worried for me. She wanted me to go home to their home, but I didn't want to do that. I actually wanted to go to Chaz. I didn't tell them at the time, though, because I know my mom would have scared her to death. But you know, my mom sometimes doesn't understand that all risk is relative, right? Yes, there's a chance that somebody will get hurt going to Chaz. There's also a chance that social anxiety is going to impede my life, right? A much bigger chance, right, that it's going to ruin my career, that it's probably going to cause other problems even after we recover from the pandemic, right? That's a concept that my parents have a hard time grasping, right? So my mom is worried that I drive a Mitsubishi Lancer. She wants me to drive an SUV. She doesn't want me to get hurt in a car accident. Now the thing is, I have other priorities that I need to take care of, right? If I were driving an SUV, I'd probably still be living in it right now, and there's other risks that come with that, right? And obviously, I like it, the car that I drive, right? It is my own personal identity not important to myself and my well-being, right? But my mom would never understand that. So I went to the Chaz protest, and I got over my fear of loud noises, and I started bowling. So I took my first trip bowling in a very, very long time, I think in August of 2020. And I didn't tell my parents at the time either, because my mom would freak out about COVID-19, right? But again, it's all relative. I know she will not understand that. Okay, so I got over my fear of loud noises, and I made it a goal. After a few more trips, I made it a goal that by the end of 2020, I needed to score a game of 150. And so on December 28th, 2020, I was at a bowling alley in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. I used to frequent that bowling alley a lot when I was living in Wallace, Idaho. And I scored a 153, and I took a picture of that. So that was probably another happy day in 2020. I have since scored 183. That's my highest all-time score. And then on Valentine's Day, I spoke up about how single lives matter. And I felt so good about myself that I came out of my shell. I used to, you know, a lot of people used to think that I intuitively knew I was happy single, but I knew I wasn't getting accepted for it, so I would often compromise and date somebody that I didn't even like, just to get some acceptance. And this year has been marked by me getting out of that shell, and I feel so good about that. I really do. Anyway, I'm hoping for the rest of the pandemic and beyond, right, that I enjoy these things as they're happening, right, not months later in retrospect. Thanks for watching.